Quick fire questions. We ask listeners to send in questions. You can do that as well. Politicon, at Politicon on Instagram or Twitter. God forbid we send anything on Twitter, though. At Politicon on Instagram or Twitter, or you can email to podcasts@politicon.com. Quite a few brought in for Lauren this week, but I'm going to start with Mitch from Stockton, California, since it's sort of adjacent to what we were talking about. Mitch from Stockton, California asks, why do people still believe the mainstream media?
I think a lot of the time it might be confirmation bias. Honestly, I love believing that I'm right 100% of the time, even though it might only be like 95% of the time. So I think confirmation bias plays a big part of it. And I think the other part might just be it's comfortable, right? It's easier. The mainstream media, it's everywhere. It's accessible. They've really done a good job of branding themselves as the official authorities on things like that. So it's easier to just go along with it. And I think a lot of the people who aren't, politicos like you and I, who really keep up with this stuff, they might not be aware that there even is this huge movement to question or challenge what official sources might be saying. So I think there are a lot of people who might just trust them because, hey, it's the news, and historically, why wouldn't you trust the news?
Listen, I don't disagree. I'm not supposed to interject, but I'm having fun with you, Lauren. So I'm going to interject anyway during the quickfire round. Is it possible that confirmation bias is also the reason that Fox News and the right-wing media outlets are successful? I mean, if it's good for the goose, isn't it good for the gander?
I consider Fox News part of mainstream media. Like, don't get me wrong.
Well, then isn't it possible that confirmation bias may be why The Blaze has been successful, or maybe why OANN?
I would say any media outlet for sure.
Okay. Amanda from Phoenix, Arizona says, it feels like there are no more libertarian places left. Is the USA the last best hope?
Yes, I would say definitely. Really? Like I said, I'm small government. I'm not libertarian, though. Okay. But, I see eye to eye with libertarians about a lot of things. And I think if we look at like actual policy, social policies, the U.S. is pretty good. But in terms of like economic libertarianism, U.S. actually isn't, ranked highest for ease of doing business. Other places, like, for example, Hong Kong, rank a lot higher. So even the U.S., I think if you're someone who loves liberty, you've got a lot to think about and question.
Let me tell you what, Lauren, your fans love you because this week they have come in. I've seen so many more red state questions this week than we normally do, admittedly. Rachel from Boise, Idaho. Ooh, sorry about that, Rachel. Sorry about that, Idaho. Rachel from Boise, Idaho asks, did the swamp defeat Donald Trump?
I think the swamp defeated all of the populace, the people who were trying to fight back. I think, and what's funny about the swamp is that I've been enjoying seeing AOC. I'm not a fan of her, but I've been enjoying seeing her try to fight back against it as well. And I think, Washington, it's a muddy place, a swampy place. And I don't think anyone who believes in the corruption of that area is surprised to see how things have played out.
Taylor from Seattle, Washington asks, today I've got COVID mouth. I can't talk at all. Taylor from Seattle, Washington asks, should Russian and Chinese interference be treated differently?
Treated differently than what, I suppose? But look, I'm
from each other.
From each other. No, I don't think so. I think any election interference needs to be examined and called out, whether that's domestic, whether that's international. What's interesting is that globally speaking, the U.S. does not have very secure elections. In Canada, we perform our elections very differently. We don't use electronic counters. We don't have widespread mail-in ballots. We require voter ID. And I'm someone who thinks that democracy is only as good as the efforts that are made to uphold the integrity of the election. So, call them out, condemn it, regardless of who it's coming from. And, this goes for, there were Democrats recently saying that Mitch McConnell's reelection was suspect. Fine, have an investigation. I'm someone who says, like, either way, even if it doesn't benefit the person I want to win, what's most important is the integrity of the vote.
Just to uphold the integrity of Taylor's question, in case he was talking about non-election interference, we've seen that there was some Russian hacking, quite a bit of Russian hacking into email systems and internet systems over the past few weeks. That's been revealed. In D.C., several executive departments, but very little discussion about that from the executive branch. Has there been enough of a reaction, a strong enough reaction to Russia's hacking of the computer systems?
I mean, I think when it comes to that type of thing, I'm not a neoconservative. I know there are people out there who's like, all right, let's get boots on the ground and things like that, which I don't think is the right thing to do. I would say I think the right thing to do there would be to be very upfront with the evidence that you have as to who is and who is not responsible. But I'm very tit for tat when it comes to international relations. And I think that if this type of interference bothers Americans, and this is kind of like where my non-American side comes out, they should also keep that in mind the next time other countries are saying, please don't interfere with our elections or with our way of life and things like that.
Hey, I'm Clay Aiken. To hear the full episode, subscribe to This Politicon podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to pods. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show. Go to Politicon.com, follow @Politicon on social media, and listen to a new pod episode of How the Heck every Thursday.